Dette en podcast fra Impuls. Impulspodden.
Hei alle sammen, det på tide med en ny episode av Impulspodden. Denne gang så har vi en litt kjedelig nyhet, og så har vi en veldig, veldig bra nyhet. Og den kjedelige nyheten at Chris Anne dessverre syk denne uken. Så dere kommer å glede dere til neste måned for å høre stemmen hennes igjen. Men vi har en veldig god nyhet, og det var at i månedsskiftet mai-juni så var vi så heldige å ha besøk av Grammy-nominerte Hillsong Young og Free. Vi fant et sted å gjemme oss på bygget. Og så fikk jeg en prat med Renee Sieff og Pappas om høyt og lavt. Jeg synes det ble en veldig, veldig spennende. De var utrolig åpne. Så vi setter over til det.
All right, guys, so welcome. Just for you listeners to know, I'm here with Renee and Pappas from Hillsong Young and Free. Awesome. Welcome, guys.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
How do you like our Norwegian summer so far?
Oh, it's
Summer.
been beautiful. Sunny with a high of 20? Yeah. Is it 20? No, it's 10.
You're very solitary.
How cold is it? What was the temperature today?
So we do Celsius, and I guess, what would it be? Maybe the 60s? You do?
I do Celsius.
Celsius.
Yeah, 10 degrees Celsius.
Okay, it
Yeah.
was 10. Yeah. It was nice. I like the rain.
Yeah. I guess our winter is 10 degrees Celsius, so it's like, I wouldn't consider this summer.
Yeah.
I went to a shop the other day,
Yeah.
and it said on the menu soup, but only in winter. And I was like, can I get soup? And they're like, it's not winter. And I was like, okay, cool. Oh, you're crazy.
Well, guys, you're so welcome. Thanks for dropping by.
Thank you.
And so we know, from knowing you guys, we know that more than, a typical band, you're more of a musician collective based in your local church, and you kind of serve from that. But also you get the opportunity to travel around the world. So, so what's been your most your culture shock experience so far?
Ooh, good question. We really like coffee. And so in Australia, coffee is nearly religion. So in some places when you can't find good coffee, it's we're hard pressed. It's a hard day, but not here. Great coffee.
We're really proud of our coffee.
Yeah, I'm
Did
very
you
proud
taste
of
it?
you as well.
It
Yeah.
was beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
well done, guys.
Wow.
Really good. I think another culture shock, the first time we came to Europe, we went to Germany. And in Australia, like sausages for breakfast is not a thing at all. So like we pretty much went in for breakfast and there were just sausages everywhere. And we were like, okay, cool. And then there was no water to drink either because everything was sparkling water.
Yeah.
That was quite a culture shock.
Yeah, it was. It was very hard to find still. I like sparkling water now though. I've acquired the taste.
Yes, me too,
Yeah.
actually.
Wow.
But in the beginning.
Yes, that's true. There was one day we were playing a festival in Germany and it was like 3:00 and we were like we were stranded in the desert, like to our tour manager, Eli, where's the water? He said it was coming at noon, but it was 3:00 and it still wasn't there. So yeah, that was a hard day.
Yeah.
Well, guys, speaking of culture, so we have a few listener questions. And this one is from Even Holme. So do you watch Home and Away? And do you think it is a fair display of the Australian culture?
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it?
I do not watch it, and when I did watch it, I would say that it's not a good display because it's quite a dramatic show, and Australians are very like laid back.
Yeah.
We're very laid back people, so it's kind of like an Australian version of like The Bold and the Beautiful, but we're not that.
It's The Bold and the Beautiful.
Isn't that it? The Bold and the Beautiful,
I
the
have no
American
idea.
one?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
And
I don't know.
they're Norwegians.
Oh, sorry guys. I know.
But speaking of culture, you have a thing called the tall puppy syndrome,
Yes.
yeah? And we have something similar in Norway
Really?
called the antelope. There's a lot of similarities about that. So,
Yeah.
well, what kind of TV shows do you watch?
Oh, very good question. I'm like a nerd big time. And I have like spent the last few months like watching like DC's like TV shows like Green Arrow and The Flash and all that. I like that kind of stuff. And like New Girl, like sitcoms,
Yeah.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Scrubs is my favorite show ever. I've watched it through like a dozen times. Not a dozen, maybe 6. What do you like, Renee?
I actually, I don't watch TV at all.
Wow.
Like, I don't even have a Netflix account.
Like consciously because you don't want to watch a TV
Yeah,
show?
I did start watching a show, and I feel like I got addicted to it. And like when I went out during the daytime, I was thinking about the next episode and everything. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't watch TV.
So I'd just rather use my time differently. Is that it?
Yes, that's pretty much it. But I do like movies. So I enjoy movies because it finishes like 2.5 hours, done, it's resolved. I don't walk away with any I'm at peace by the end of the movie. So
Right. So obviously you guys are not well known for your music and worship leading, but being a worship leader myself, I know that a lot of that stuff is often a lot of the stuff you see is often just the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think ultimately the local church is about making disciples. So I think that's really interesting to hear how that works home for you guys. I mean, how in your music department, how do you disciple people? How do you invest in people? How does that look? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. We're really lucky that we come from a church that releases us to go, but then also come back.
Yeah.
Because it's it really is there's a thing called post-tour depression.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of common term known among touring musicians and artists, that it is very daunting to come back home after you've been away on the road. Not because of we're really cool because we've been away, but it's actually life happens when you're gone. People move on with their life and they do things, and then you just kind of come back after you've been gone a month or 2 months, and you just kind of try and jump back in, and it can be really scary, which makes me think a lot about any of my friends who have left church, or just been away for a year or 2 years, and then they want to come back. I'm away on a church sanctioned tour, and I get nervous to come back to church, much less someone who's left for 2 years and then wants to come back. I can't even imagine how scary that would be. But anyway, that's a tangent. But yeah, so coming home, our church very much welcomes us back home. So we jump back in we never left. Yeah. And so a lot of us have different roles and different responsibilities. I'm one of the campus creative pastors in our Sydney city campus. And so I'll still kind of look after a bunch of teams while I'm away. And then when I come back, I'll just jump right back in. And when we're home, we're 100% a part of the local church, which is an amazing privilege. And we know that we wouldn't be who we are if we didn't have a local church to go back to. And we actually are refilled and refreshed when we're at home in church. So yeah, and it would look like building any local church, catching up with people. It would mean one-on-one discipleship, connect groups, everything.
Yeah. Awesome. So I was listening to a podcast last week with someone I think probably has been a role model to you guys, Joel Houston.
Oh yeah.
He was doing a podcast called Unedited with Cameron Strang, I think it was called. You should listen to it. And he was talking about it, and he was very candid about his process this last, I guess, 6 months or a year, whatever, and was really honest about his process. About, obviously he, as myself, he's pushing 40, so I won't bother you with that stuff. But looking back and asking yourself really tough questions, where am I leading people? What do I actually think is awesome? But what is in fact valuable to me? A lot of tough questions. And obviously, traveling around leading worship, being in the role, the position you have, I think a lot of that stuff is obviously fantastic, amazing, just, being creative and doing what we love. But being in a position of influence also has a weight to it, you know what I mean? Which is, at least I've found, is really tough sometimes. It's amazing because you're in a position of influence and you can, impact people with a positive message, but also there's a really weight to that stuff. And how do you tackle or handle that as an environment? Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Because
totally.
I think it's not easy, really. There is a weight to that because, a wrong word at the wrong time can be
absolutely.
costly.
Yeah.
How do you, and I think, what are your thoughts on that? How do you handle that?
I think it's for me anyways, my journey, the way I've processed it a bit more is recently I've been thinking about how in everything that we need to do, it actually just needs to be pleasing to God, because there's so many people around you, so many people involved in your world. But at the end of the day, I need to be like, am I giving God my best in every situation that I do? And it takes that weight off you, because Jesus, the most gentle natured God, is not coming to point at you or correct you. He's coming to love you. So when I think about the weight, I think even because it's such a huge pressure, even to get up and lead people in worship, I think about the people that come in and maybe there's that son that the mother has been praying for 15 years to finally come back into church. And that's a huge weight on my behalf to be like, am I doing my best to make that person feel connected in worship? But it's actually not my responsibility. My responsibility is to love God and to please God and go, God, this is the absolute best that I have to offer you. And my worship is going to be genuine and authentic. And hopefully, God, you'll accept it with loving and open arms. And that will be an attraction to the person that is in the room. Because I don't know, the thing that I love about Joel is because we get we get to worship with him and we get to tour with United and everything. And the thing I love about Joel the most is he is so genuine. And good leaders don't build followers, they build more leaders. So every time we get off stage, he doesn't go what if you do it like this way? But he goes, I love the way you dance. I love the way you do this. I love the way, and it makes you feel so comfortable in your own skin that you're like, actually me is acceptable up there. And therefore, I don't know, he's just amazing like that. So I think the weight is taken off you when you're here to please God and worship spiritually, worship intentionally in spirit and in truth. And that's what has really helped me lately.
Totally. I just echo, it's pretty much like throwing a ball, what you are or driving, it's just if you focus on one thing, that's sort of where you're going to end up, right? You're inevitably going to I'm focused on this thing, so I steer. So what Renee's saying is pretty much if you focus on am I getting am I growing in pride too much? Am I growing in anxiety? Am I growing in in anxiousness or nerves or whatever? If that's what you focus on, that's actually where you're going to end up. If you struggle, I have so many friends who struggle with nerves, and as musicians, and that's it's a genuine thing. But when they only focus on it, of course you're just going to be I'm nervous. But when you actually fix your attention on God, what Renee was saying, when you fix your attention on what you're meant to do, that's where you're going to steer. That's where you're going to throw the ball. So if we can just get our focus right, I think those things come pretty easily.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. This will be a shift, but there's another listener question. So it's from Triple E Pastor 40. He says that he's a pastor pushing 40 and he wants to stay culturally relevant and hip, yet not overstepping and losing my favor amongst the elders. Any clothing tips?
Clothing tips.
Be yourself.
Be yourself. Nobody loves somebody that's trying to be someone else. You have to be you.
Yeah.
You see people that are wearing all types of brands, but the brands don't suit them because they're just trying to fit the brand and not what suits them.
I say if you feel confident, if it makes you feel confident, don't care what anybody else says. Lots of people don't like my cross-hearing, but I feel confident in my cross-hearing. So when I'm wearing it, I feel great. So I'm going to keep wearing it as long as I feel great.
Awesome.
True.
Who do you reckon is your best dressed 40-year-old in your music environment?
Oh.
40-year-old?
That's 40-year-old.
Or maybe, Hillsong United. Who's the most well-dressed among them?
They all dress so well because they all suit what they're wearing. It's honestly even Jad, he wears a black t-shirt and black jeans every night, but if he wore anything else, I would be like, what are you doing? Like, wear your black t-shirt. That's who you are. That's what you do. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah, I mean, but if you felt great in it, I would say all power to you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Go for it, Jad.
But like they're all themselves, and that's why what they wear is cool.
That's what it comes down to, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yeah.
It is.
I don't know. I shouldn't speak. Every night before we go, I'm like, what should I wear? I don't know what to wear. I have no clothes. So I shouldn't speak.
Guys, we should talk a little bit about, because there's a lot of questions about, the production phase of the stuff that you're doing and getting to talk to and sometimes meeting people from, I guess, the Bethel environment, Jesus Culture, Soul Survivor, and even domestically here, there's always tweaks to how they approach the production phase. So how does that look for you? And maybe even to make it more concretely about, because the last single is Every Little Thing, right? Mm-hmm. And how is the production side of that? If you get my question, how does that look?
So most of the way our songs would come about would be, generally speaking, it would start with like one or two writer-focused people, and then a third producer/writer in the room. So just because, like, obviously with our genre of music, it's not so much just an acoustic guitar and that. So it's one thing to, and we have written songs like that in the room, like, oh, and imagine it's like doing this, like at that bit. Yeah, cool. Like, and that happens and that can work, but there's something really exciting and thrilling in the writing and the creative process when someone's in the room, not just going, oh, imagine this, but they're making it happen. Like they're making the magic happen in the room, which is awesome. So that would be generally how our songwriting process goes, which obviously shows the value of having a great producer in the room. Yeah. And when you don't, it's not quite as fun. But so like that would be the process. So a song like Every Little Thing, I didn't write it, but I do know that the process was pretty similar to that. There was, I think it's Fatty, AIDS, Ben, and Bede. Yeah. So like two producers actually and two kind of writers in the room, and they would have sort of made the track that day. They got one of the crew to sing it later on, and pretty much through the creative processes. Once it sort of got to a stage like, okay, we really like this song, it's going to make it on the album, would be when like we really like fine tune it. But like most of the time, I would say a lot of the essence of what happens that first day is really what like sticks with the song, because we've had a lot of songs, I think, through the years where we go, oh, like, let's try to workshop it like something else. And I can't think of many that like ended up that ended up somewhere else. Like, for example, Real Love, which is a song I did write, and like it was very, to the way you hear it now, was similar to how it began. And there was a stage where someone sort of thought maybe, I don't know if that vibe is timeless. Who knows what timeless is? But so we workshopped it, and it was just like so weird. And it sort of ended up just coming back to the way it was. And because I think there's something to be said about the moment that you create something, the energy, and like often, they say your first idea is your best idea. Because, if that's the idea that, I'm not saying you shouldn't rewrite songs, because you absolutely should. But like oftentimes that idea and that essence that really got you excited in the first place often will probably be the thing that you want to keep. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and what other people will hear as well.
Yeah, totally.
Excited. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. So, new listener question. Renee, what was your first job?
My first job? Oh my goodness. When I was 13, I worked... 13? I worked for a week at Burger King. We call it Hungry Jack's in Australia, but Burger King. And I just really wanted a job.
Even allowed?
How did they hire you?
No, I got hired and I got fired in a week because they realized I was too young.
Oh.
And so
to be fair, you still look like 13.
Okay, thank you. No, but they're like, oh, hey, like, you're actually such a good worker, but we didn't realize, like, what we're doing right now is illegal. So we're can you come back when you're 14? That's what they said to us. And I said to me, and I was like, yeah, I'll come back. But I didn't because I started working somewhere else at 14.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
Cool. How about you, Pappas?
I washed dishes when I was 15, because I don't think you can start working in America before 15. I washed dishes at a place called Noodle Express, and I worked there for 4 years.
Right.
Not washing dishes. On my 18th birthday, they gave me the keys to the restaurant. I was a shift manager.
Oh, shivers.
For those listening, I just like kind of flicked my shirt in a very cool motion.
Yeah. And do like the band members? Do they most of them work on staff in some sort, or do they have other daytime jobs?
Yeah, everyone is on staff at church. Some of us are full-time, some of us are part-time. It was up to us. It's just when it came to traveling, it was hard to like keep a job and travel the amount that we do as well for Young and Free. So like for instance, Jack is so blessed because he studied to be an accountant and he works for an accounting.
Jack is our keys
He's
player.
our keys player. He works for an accounting agency in Sydney, but his boss is a Christian, so he lets him work when he gets back part-time, but he also works for church. So it's just that kind of thing. Yeah.
All right. All right. So you guys, we have a spot in our podcast that which is based on our youth movement's name, Impulse, and Impulse is based on the school book definition, which says that impulse is a force of power that over time that causes a continuous change of direction. Now you know. Basically, what we're asking is, what has been your major, if there's one influence that has impacted you most during your youth years, what has it been? And you can't mention your family.
Yeah.
Who or what has influenced you most during your youth years?
Like a person.
It can be a person or a thing or an event or.
I can go.
Yeah, you go.
I didn't grow up in Australia or at Hillsong. I moved to Australia when I was 19. And when I was 15, my parents had separated, and like kind of classic age for like teen angst. And I was like really into hardcore music and like just that sort of vibe. And I mean, like it's kind of stuff that teenagers do. Like I started drinking and kind of going down a trail like that. And then not long later, I went to a youth conference. And at that youth conference, they were playing Hillsong United songs. And I had never heard Hillsong United. I had never heard church music that intrigued me, but I was really into guitar and all that stuff. And I was like, whoa, like that's really cool. And for the first time in my life, because I didn't grow up in a church that actually gave you an opportunity to respond to Jesus, really. Like I made a decision when I was 4, and it was really holy. Like, you know, I felt like the light was breaking through my bedroom window, and I was on my knees and praying, and it was very sacred, but, you know, you're 4 years old. And so I was given the opportunity to respond, and I was so moved by what I now know was the Holy Spirit. And honestly, my life was kind of forever changed. And I had a youth pastor as well. His name's Sam Meredith, and he's to this day my hero. And he just believed in me. We had a youth group of like 100 kids. He would hang out with me one-on-one once a week through my parents' whole split up. And even when I was, you know, being a dummy and doing stupid stuff, he still just believed in me, spoke life into me. And like it's just, and it's amazing now, like our relationship and all that stuff. Like it's so cool. And like, you know, I get to work with young people now, and just knowing what just a little bit of life spoken into a young person can do, because like self-awareness and identity and all that stuff is like, it's not something that young people are going to learn in school, and oftentimes they're not going to learn at home. And so like for us as leaders, and or if you're a young person, like, and I don't care what stage you're like, I still have a mentor. I'm 30 years old, and I still go out of my way to have a mentor, to have someone who's speaking life into me and challenging me on things and helping me figure out who I am. And I just could not stress like the catalyst, the impulse that fully changed my life really was a moment with Jesus, which hopefully all of us as believers have had, but ultimately as well is along the way, people who were patient with me, people who believed in me and challenged me and encouraged me along the way.
Yeah. How about you, Renee?
I feel like everyone, the journey of a Christian, you have so many of those moments, but one thing that I can remember vividly is we have a thing called Hillsong Conference. It happens once a year and it's pretty much a huge gathering in Australia. And I remember Hillsong United were playing that night, and it was before I ever really knew that I wanted to even serve God in this way, in the way of worship kind of thing. And I remember standing in the auditorium, 20,000 people, and they played the song With Everything. And it got to that part that I was like, whoa, whoa. And the crowd, the congregation just kept on singing it, to the point that the band were like, okay, like it went for so long that they just walked off stage. Like the night was ended and people did not want to leave. They just kept on singing that and singing that and singing that part. And I just remember standing there looking around the whole auditorium as people have their hands raised, singing that part over and over again, going, wow, like what an honor it must be for the person who wrote this. It's not even a word. It's literally a melody, but it's uniting every single Christian in the room. What an honor it must be for that person. Little did I know that later in life, I'm going to be writing songs, and like we sang that song on tour as well. And like, it's just crazy how God plants seeds in your life, but he definitely, like the Holy Spirit definitely gave me that moment at that time being like, do you understand the honor that it is that like he gives you songs for others to sing? Do you understand that honor? And it's crazy that I got that little direction switch at that age. I think I was maybe in year 5, so maybe like 12 or 11, something like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, our time is up.
Sad.
It went quick, didn't it?
It went very quick.
It's
Wow.
awesome.
It's been awesome talking to you guys, and thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you.
And you're off to do a concert tonight.
Let's go.
We're so
It'll
excited.
be good.